God wiping out nations before Israel, as Israel crosses the Jordan to take the land that God promised them, is an objection that deconstructionists and atheists have. What kind of God is it that can destroy all these people? As I've mentioned before, I'm reading through the Bible with my grandpa's old Schofield Reference edition. Yeah, it's in King James, but I'm okay with that. I grew up with that. I'm reading in Deuteronomy now, and I think there is an answer that you may not like, but it is an answer, maybe the answer. Let me read some from chapter 18. And I'm down in verse 9. When thou art come into the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. There shall not be found among you any one that maketh his son or daughter to pass through the fire, that is, sacrificing children to Moloch. Very big objection by God. Or that causeth divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with family spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. For all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord thy God doth drive them out from before thee. So Moses, speaking God's word to the Israelites, are telling them this is why. If you remember back in Genesis 15, God is promising that land to Abraham, and he says, you aren't going to get it, you specifically Abraham, you will sleep and go to your fathers. But then in the fourth generation, and is that literal or does that mean in a long time? Don't know. God will give that land to your children, but not yet, because the abomination of the Amorites is not yet complete. In other words, the Amorites who live in the land now have not sinned, have not rejected God to a level yet that God is going to completely destroy them. He does destroy those nations because they are doing these things listed here in Deuteronomy 18. And remember, God's first commandment was, love the Lord your God. The second commandment, do not worship anything else. It says in more places than one, God is a jealous God. He not only wants, but demands that he be our God, and that we do not acknowledge anyone or anything else as God, only him. Absolutely number one with him. Later on, Israel begins to worship other gods, just as Moses predicted they would do, and the Israelites are doing these same things that are the reason God drove the Amorites and others out from the land before Israel in the first place. Therefore, God sends surrounding nations in to destroy and disperse Israel. And you may not like that, but later on, Habakkuk is complaining to God about that very thing. He says, you are punishing Israel for their wrongdoing by sending nations who are even worse than Israel. That's not right. And God's answer to that in Habakkuk 2:20 is, the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. In other words, I'm God and you're not. God insists on our exclusive loyalty. You may not like that. You may not like God for that. But that is why of all of these things that you object to. And if you reject God for that, if you don't like God for that, I have no cure. Somewhere in the Bible it says, humble yourself, that God may exalt you. Yeah, he's God. We're not. There's just no way around that.